Hey, me again, Rich Power. How you doing? I tell you, if you ever need to go out to eat in Aspen, there's a place. It's called Steakhouse number 316. It's just there. The prime rib is out of this world, and the bread pudding is, whew, something to write home about. I tell you that much. Well, I'd like to talk to you now about the second power principle of mine to success in the music industry. This is going to require a little backstory, okay? You probably understand that a lot of my wisdom and my truths require a good deal of backstory because there's a lot. There's a lot there. There's a lot to sink your teeth into, and, there's not a lot to sink your teeth into, it ain't worth doing. And if you can't do it, you can't learn from it. That's what I always say. Well, listen, this goes all the way back to Tommy Dorsey. I was working with him in the mid-50s with RCA Victor and Alan Livingston. And this was soon after Tommy had died, bless his soul. Alan and I were in the Copacabana Club. I distinctly remember I had a shrimp cocktail, excuse me. You want to switch out a cock for a cop, I don't know what that means. Anyhow, I had a cocktail there and was eating a shrimp, and we're talking about how to best merge EMI and Capital. This was when Capital was being acquired by EMI. Alan was a little scared for his job. I said, hey, don't worry about it. I'll talk to some of the heads, some of the higher-ups, and you don't have anything to worry about. Well, we were discussing that, and pretty much also how Alan had raised Frank Sinatra from the grave just a few years earlier. We were laughing. I had given him a few tips, and you know what? Everything worked out fine. Now, the funny thing is also I just brought to him an idea about these 4 English kids I had in mind. I was going to put them together. A power group, a super group. What really began the boy bands? What really began pop? Does the Beatles mean anything to you? They should. Can't believe I just said that. Anyhow, we were talking about how to put together this band that would become the Beatles. We're talking about how to become the archetypes and architects of Beatlemania. And as we were sitting there, in walked nobody else than the only Fred Trump. That's right. A lot of you out there know the Donald, his son. But if you want to know what really made the whole thing tick, what made that train a roll, you're talking about Fred. Now listen, I had done some business with Fred in the 40s. It's when I first got into real estate. I moved to town in Queens, and he really gave me my first break with real estate. I had some money to dump, and he showed me where to unload it, so to speak. Well, he walked in. Hey, there was no bigger fan of Tommy Dorsey than Fred Trump. I'll let you know that. It's just the way it was. He knew Alan, he knew myself, and he walked looking as good as ever with his $2,000 silk suit. In those days, that was about a $400,000 suit, maybe. Not really, but you know what I'm saying. And he walks, and he starts talking and just lamenting Tommy's death. And listen, we didn't need that being brought up. We had business to do. We had deals. Deals were going down. Fred was a sentimental guy sometimes. But he sat down, and long story short, he got all the way back around to the Beatles. I said, hey, we're trying to make this. They weren't called the Beatles then, but saying trying to put this group together, and how's anybody ever going to believe us if we just put 4 kids together and these kids are going to rule the world. We're going to make more money than anybody. It's going to change the face of everything. And capital's they're going to want a piece. They're going to want to be signing these guys. That's where it all started, really. I'm not going to get into it, but this gets to the power principle number 2. Finally, I'm there, right? Long-winded, but I'm there. He said, well, listen, there's one way to do that. It's about playing ball. It's about playing game. And how do you play ball if you don't have any team? I said, we don't know. You got to put a team together, right? He said, exactly. I said, well, all right, how are you going to do that? He says, you got to make a little hedge. You know, like a bush, a hedge. It bridges a yard and another yard. You could say it connects the 2 yards. We didn't know what the hell he was talking about. We just said, okay. He's like, well, you got a hedge. Listen, you call up Bob. You say, Bob, hey, you want to play in a football game or put in a game together? Bob says, well, yeah, who's playing? Well, you know that Bob's a good friend of Jimmy's, so you say, hey, man, you want to play? Jimmy's playing. Bob said, oh, okay. If Jimmy's playing, then I'll play. I'm in. Well, then you call Jimmy. You say, Jimmy, you want to play ball? He says, well, okay, but why? He said, well, Bob's playing. He says, oh, if Bob's playing, I'm playing. Hey, you got 2 people, you got them all. Think about it. It's like fish in the sea. You find 1, you find 2. You find 2, you find the school. You find the school, you net them up. Time for dinner. So that's power principle number 2. If you're going to play with the big dogs, you got to play ball. You use power principle number 1, you call. Power principle number 2, you hedge. Think bush, connecting 2 yards. And then pretty much that yard has turned into a football field. That football field into a stadium. That stadium into a universe. And there you sit at the middle of it. Powerful. Like me. Rich power. You too can have it. It's in your grasp. Well, I thank you for listening. I was just out on a date with a young actress. That's where I went to that steakhouse. Took her out. She didn't eat anything. You know, girls. But being a record man, I can still pull the youngins, so I gotta get back to her. She's in there. What's she doing? I don't know. I gotta make her a cocktail. Listen, it's been good talking to you. Maybe we can hit the slope sometime, but not now. I'm out of here. This is Rich Power.